Good evening, Tewksbury. It's 6 o'clock p.m. on Thursday, June 16th, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting of the Tewksbury Board of Health to order. First tonight, to start off the meeting, I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if I'd ask everyone to stand in the room. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay. First on our agenda tonight are the minutes from the May 19th, 2022 meeting that our new clerk, Melissa Brager, has reviewed. Does anyone have any questions or comments or suggested changes or edits to the minutes?
I have none.
Okay. Ms. Amato, any comments?
None, thank you.
Okay. And our illustrious clerk, any changes you didn't make?
I have none.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. There's no changes, but can I ask a question
Oh,
at
sure.
this point?
Yeah.
For Dunkin' Donuts, have we received the reports that we're supposed to be getting?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think you'll cover that bit more detail in your direct reports as well. Okay. And I have no changes either. So I'd entertain someone to make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Okay, someone like to second the motion?
Second.
Okay, motion's been put forth and second to approve the minutes of May 19th, 2022 as submitted. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries unanimously 4-0. And just a quick note on attendance. Member Mr. Rue, for health reasons, will not be able to attend tonight. Okay.
And just as an aside to that, we're going to give the obligatory notice to the public that we're a board of 5. There's only 4 here tonight. So anything that would go in front of the board for a vote, which may require a specific number of votes, you may not get everything that you need. So you would have the ability to reschedule to a full board, just so you understand that, okay?
Yeah, so in other words, there is no one that could potentially have a tiebreaker vote because we're not seeing how the vote's going to go, but theoretically we could have 2 and 2. So just wanted to mention that. Okay, so we have next up is a public hearing. So I think I will ask you, Melissa, if you could, as clerk, since I've been doing that role for a bit, as clerk, if you want to just read the legal notice into the record.
Sure. Notice is hereby given that the Tewksbury Board of Health will hold a public hearing on June 16th, 2022 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 1009 Main Street, first floor, Main Hall Meeting Room, Tewksbury, Mass. Requested by Joshua Winter and Dave Winter on 2 Clare Street, Tewksbury, Mass. for an animal permit as found in Section 5.3 of the minimum standards for the keeping of animals. The hearing will also be available for viewing on the following cable public access channels: Verizon Channel 33 and Comcast Channel 99. At that time, all interested parties will be heard. Copies of the application are available at the Tewksbury Board of Health office located at the Tewksbury Town Hall. Legal notice can also be viewed on www.masspublicnotices.org.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would point out that the notice says applicant Joshua Winter / Dave Winter. The application says Josh Winter applicant. Are we assuming that it's, as the notice is, Josh Winter and Dave Winter?
David owns the property, but Joshua owns the animals. It's father-son.
And we have, some portion of regulations on the permit granting authority that the applicant and the owner,
They both have to be, right, yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Same thing, like you just have, they're not the owner of the house, they have to state who the owner is.
so with that, in order to make the application complete, I think we should entertain whether or not applicant should be Josh Winter / Dave Winter to match up with the notice and to be consistent with our regulation that the applicant and the owner are applying.
So the property owner did sign the application.
Okay. If everyone's happy with the fact that the application says Josh Winter and not Dave Winter, that's okay. I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. If we get a registration and somebody isn't the owner of the home and they want to have chickens, the people who own the chickens say it's Bob Smith, it's his application, but say John Doe owns the house, John Doe has to sign off on it. So this wouldn't be unusual to have the two separate names.
Okay.
So, and I guess to point out as well,
Is that both are responsible?
both signers are here tonight, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
May I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Well, on the application, it does have, on section 4, it does have Dave Winter as the name and address of owner. Is that what you were talking about?
Well, actually, the applicant, right up on top, just says Josh.
Okay.
The notice says Josh / Dave.
Oh, that it was requested, okay.
So in order that we have all parties present, and they're present, I think it should reflect that the owner and the applicant are both here, and it's a joint application.
Yep.
That's all there is to it.
And if it pleases the board, if upon approval, you want to have both names on it, we'll just put both names on it.
I think we'll make that one of the conditions.
Sure.
Yeah, just because in prior instances, we just want to make sure that if for whatever reason the stated owner of the animals is not able to maintain the animals, then that defaults to the property owner. So in this case, it's good that you're both here. It's nothing against you, so don't take this as a negative comment. We're just trying to, from past experience, be very clear and upfront that the property owner ultimately is the one that's responsible for the animals, even though they may not be the owner of record of the animals. That's all.
I think this started too, because when Joshua first came to us, he was a minor when he first got his chickens. So at that point, he was just a young kid. So at that point, his parents were involved in the process, so I think they just went forward with the same thing.
Okay. So we have a public hearing for the keeping of animals permit requested by Joshua Winter / Dave Winter, 2 Clare Street. So as a public hearing, it's done in several steps. We open a public portion of the public hearing, then we open a public portion where the public can speak, and we'll talk about that in a second, and then we'll close the public portion of the hearing, then the board has a chance to deliberate, and then the board can either render a decision or find that we don't have enough facts or information for us, and we have to defer running a decision until we have that information. That's just a generic statement. No reflection on what we have or don't have for tonight. So if someone would like to make a motion to open the public portion of the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
And I will second.
Okay, so motion's been put forth and second to open the public hearing. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so the public hearing is now open. So, can we have someone make a motion to open the public portion of the public hearing?
A motion to make a public, opening of the public hearing.
It's a convoluted process, believe me. Okay, and someone willing to second the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. So the motion's been put forth and second to open the public portion of the public hearing tonight. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries unanimously, 4-0. Okay, now that we're all tongue-tied from that, if you folks like to come up and sit down at the table, and there is a sign-up sheet there, and all we ask is once you put your name and address on. If you could also state the same information into the microphone for the record, please.
David Winter, 2 Clare Street, Tewksbury.
Okay?
Josh Winter, 2 Clare Street, Tewksbury.
Okay. Welcome both. So Director Soar, I'll turn it over to you.
I'm going to defer to Pam to give the background information.
Okay, Pam Thomas, Animal Inspector. So the Winters, Joshua specifically, has had a registration to have backyard hens for about the last 5 years. I first met him, he was a young kid, he wanted to get some hens, had done all his research, had this whole plan for his coop. We talked in great detail about it. He had a very well thought out plan and had obviously done his research. Moving forward, got his hens, has kept everything beautiful. We've had 0 complaints over the 5 years that he's had his animals. During COVID, there were no animal inspections per the state. They did not do a barn book, so we were in a little bit of a hiatus, so I was not necessarily going out to people's properties for that short period of time. As you know, the world stopped a little bit. Upon touching base with them this year to follow up, they had 2 goats on the property and were under the assumption, which they wouldn't be the first people to be under the assumption, that they had a quote-unquote permit/registration. They thought the goats were under that. As soon as I explained to them, oh, it's a completely different process, this is what you need to do to switch from a registration to a permit, they stepped right up, did everything they were supposed to do, and here we are. Upon my inspection of the property, the goats are in fantastic shape. The layout and the setup is pretty much beyond what they need. It's elaborate for 2 little goats, but it more than meets the criteria of, all of our guidelines and what I would consider a happy animal husbandry point of view. So this is kind of like a formality, pretty much just to switch from a registration to a permit. I went out again yesterday just to, I had given them they had a little bit of a fencing issue. I talked to Joshua about it. Since then, everything I have asked him to do, which was minor, put up some cattle fencing, because as you know, goats can be a little bit tricky, and he was having a little bit of a hard time with them trying to get through one spot. So he fixed all that, and he's, got a great setup for them. Should be, I think, were they rescue goats? Is that what you got them? Because they weren't
Yeah, I got them when they were babies because there was a farm going out of business.
and they're just 2 neutered pygmies. Nothing crazy. There's going to be no breeding. There's going to be no other goats. It's just, this is it. And he has no intentions of getting any other. So I'm not sure if you need more. And I believe they gave you some pictures of the setup. And where they store in the hay, and their waste management plan and their pest management plan falls right in line with our guidelines and what we like to see. And like I said, he's did an outstanding job with the hens, and we've never had any issues. As well as with this, he really did his research. He's storing his hay in a proper place so nothing gets wet. Pretty much, I raised dairy goats for 15 years myself, so I consider myself pretty critical. And I would be happy if I was to have any of my goats there, they'd be in good standing.
Okay. And I'll just further state that when the Board of Health updated our keeping of animal regulations, I think now a couple of years ago?
I think it was 5 years ago.
Okay, 5 years ago.
COVID.
When you've been on the board for a long time,
32 years,
history
yeah.
blurs. The previous regulation had a lot of things that did not pertain to jurisdiction of the Board of Health. Specifically, there was a lot of mentioning of zoning regulations and distances and setbacks. When we rewrote the regulation, and under legal guidance from a state association of local boards of health, we were asked to just rewrite it so it would cover just areas that the Board of Health actually has purview over. So when we look at keeping of animals permit applications now, it's solely with the focus on public health. And as long as there is nothing that's going to introduce or potentially cause a reason for concern with public health, then that makes the board happy. So anything that deals with zoning, or if someone's worried about property values or anything, that's not a Board of Health issue. That's more of a zoning issue, which would be taken up with the zoning board if that should ever be the case. So I just want everyone to be aware tonight that the from what you say, and if we have anyone that does step forward, that it would be solely based on matters that would be of public health concern. Okay, so if you folks like to introduce yourselves again and just give us whatever information you would like us to know before we potentially render a decision tonight.
Josh Winter. Like Pam said, I got the goats 2 years and a half ago now, maybe, and got them when they were babies. There was a farm going out of business, and they were just wanted to get rid of them all and not have them just go random places. So I got them during COVID. It was like they're basically like dogs, and I built the whole fence in the backyard. They get housed in part of the backyard. They get half the shed. Made a little door in the shed. They can go inside at night, and redid the back picket fence. They started knocking it down, so I put metal fencing all against it so they couldn't get out anymore. And I have a small little hay shed to store their hay so it doesn't get wet. And you just can basically hang out with them. Like I said, they're like dogs. And yeah, they're just fun pets to have.
Diesel and Dude.
Yeah, their names are Diesel and Dude.
Did you name them, or were they named that way?
I
when you
did
got
name them.
Okay.
Yeah, I got them when they were just babies, so.
Can I just interject for 1 second? One other thing I noticed, and I had asked, I said, who's like trimming their hoofs? And he's like, oh, my girlfriend and I do it. And that's like a big thing. Like that's not an easy thing for people to do. I was a 4-H'er. That's part of our showmanship thing. We were required to do it. And a lot of people that own goats, trimming their hoofs isn't just like, cows and horses. It's not an easy thing. And their hoofs they're beautiful, and they do them themselves. I thought they were paying somebody to come in and do it, but they're doing it themselves. And that takes research, and that takes time, and it's not easy. Having a goat that's still getting their hoofs trimmed isn't an easy thing, but I was impressed with that. I just assumed they were paying somebody to come do it, and they weren't. They're doing it themselves, so not many people do that these days.
Okay, well, good. Anything else you wanted to ask? We'll probably have a couple questions. This is more of a formality than anything.
No, I don't think there's anything else now.
Okay. So the one question I would have, and like I said, directed both of you, I know in one of the things that we have in the regulation, I think I know the answer, but I'd rather just have it come from both of you.
Sure.
Fencing. So the animals you kept in the backyard, and fencing, there was an issue or a small issue, but you said that that's resolved, so that there is perimeter fencing around the backyard.
Yeah, it's a 6-foot stockade fence, and then in the front, there was a little bit of a different style fence, and they're strong, so they were butting through it. So now he's got industrial cattle fence that
Okay.
they can't get through. There's no way. And they did it all, they secured the picket fence as well. That's
Okay.
what I went out to check yesterday. So everything's secured on all sides. But they're tricky. Goats are tricky. I mean, they can climb, they can jump, and that's a learning curve, and they figured it out, and everybody's safe and secure now.
So it's equivalent to baby-proofing a backyard.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. It's like having toddlers, exactly.
I had twins, and they would, you
learn
protect
as you
things
go.
for one, but
Yeah.
they do things together.
He's a twin, trust me.
Okay. Well, that was my only issue, and I'm glad to hear from your report
Yeah.
where you were saying you're doing proper things for keeping the hay safe and away from water and
The
keeping...
grain's all locked up. They've got pest management plan in place, the whole shebang, yeah.
Good. And that's really what we're looking for, is that someone knows what to do, and you have an excellent resource here, so rely on her if there are any questions. And I know you're not afraid to give your 2 cents worth
No, I'm
if
not.
they can
Exactly, yep.
do anything
If
better.
They know, and that's the thing, like people, I feel like I don't have a lot of problems because people know what they need to do, because they know if they don't, then, there's consequences. So, yeah, it's good.
Okay. So I'll turn it over to the board if anyone has any questions.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
I think it's really great. I'm old school, and I'd like to go back in time and have goats myself. My question is, I know you also have chickens, and how do you separate?
I actually do not have any chickens anymore.
Oh, you don't?
I couldn't, every time I would fix anything to keep any wild animals away from them, they would get them again, so I just made the decision to not get any more chickens.
Roosters?
No.
Oh, no, no.
Just
I
the
never had
goats.
roosters. Yeah, just the goats.
That's great. And you know you can rent them out, right?
Please.
Please.
No, you know, you've got a great reputation listening to you and reading what your neighbors wrote. I know the area well, and yeah, that's all the questions I have.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I just want to thank you for coming in front of the board. I know that, like you had mentioned with COVID, sometimes things get slacked, so I appreciate you coming forward and doing all the things as soon as you figured it out. I'm really glad to know that, like Pam said, that you're literally taking care of them like they were your pets, which they are.
They are.
So that's really great. And the trimming the hooves yourselves, give you props on that. It's not easy to do, like dog nails nonetheless. Goat hooves, so good for you, kudos. So no questions, just, thank you for coming up.
Thank you.
I just have some simple questions because we're creating a record here.
Yeah.
And I know that you've provided pictures and
Yep.
you're the owner of the property.
Yes, sir.
Looks like you're on a street with similar sized lots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our
How
side,
big is
yep.
your lot?
13, just over 13,000.
Okay, and pretty safe to say that the lots beside you are about the same size?
Yeah.
And it sounds like all your activities are taking place in the backyard.
Correct.
Is there a separation between the backyard and, let's call it, the front yard or the yard proper?
Yes.
And how is that accessed, with the gate?
Yeah, I have a
That's-
6-foot wide gate that,
And you keep control of that, there's a lock on it?
yeah, there's a chain with a lock.
Okay. And so no one else can get in there unless they have a combination or a key?
Yep.
So it's secure. And how about veterinarian? Do you have a veterinarian that looks in on the animals?
I've actually, yeah, I haven't had needed to bring them yet, because when I got them, they were all up to date on shots. But when I had my birds, I used to bring them to Bulger Animal Hospital in Lawrence.
And you're going to keep that same type of
Yes.
practice? So
They
you
don't
have a vet-
require yearly shots, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, no rabies or anything like that. It's not a state requirement.
okay.
Yeah, he had a duck at one point and he had a bad leg. He took him up to the vet, had it fixed, had all the shots, had little tape job put
Yeah,
on and
had like a
stent.
broken leg or something. I had to
Broke
give
its
her-
leg getting out of the pond.
I had to give her medication twice a day orally, and that wasn't very fun.
So
But
you have guidance from a veterinarian,
Yes.
or at least a
Yep.
professional that can help you with all
Yep.
of this? And you're taking advantage of that?
Yep.
How long do these goats, these pygmy goats, live?
oh, 15 years average.
And the age of these goats are? They're juveniles?
2. They're
Two?
yes.
Both the same age?
Yes.
Are they twins as well?
They're not twins, but they are from the same dad.
Okay, just wanted to.
Good question.
So you have a pest management plan. You've gone over that
Yep.
Yep.
with Pam. And that takes place in another section of the yard or the rear yard, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And is that sequestered from the goats, the pest management area?
There's no, we don't do any poisons or anything like that
Right.
ever. It's
Okay.
more
No, you
just, it's
can't.
more just preventative,
Yeah.
that type of thing. I think, on a side note, roticide is most likely, hopefully going to become illegal in the state of Massachusetts soon,
Okay,
due to secondary roticide poisoning.
perfect. And waste management, you said they're like dogs, I don't doubt you, but they're creating waste and you're containing that.
Yes, I compost it for my garden.
So you actually reutilize the goat waste to compost to garden? And what are you planting in your garden these days?
All kinds of
And how do you
vegetables.
keep them out of that?
Well, the gardens in
Yeah,
the
I keep the garden more
front of the backyard.
Yeah,
And
up
the
against the
goats
house.
are in the back chain. They can't get.
Yeah, there's a fence in between
So you're
them.
comfortable that your tomatoes are going to survive?
Yeah.
He does a garden but doesn't eat vegetables.
And my understanding is that this isn't a registration to permit situation. This is a permit situation. The registration is for the hens.
Yes.
Don't have any hens.
Nope.
Not anymore.
Nothing prejudices you from getting hens, other than going back to register, as
Correct.
long as that's
Yep.
clear. Of course, any other animals adding to it, you're aware that you may have to come back for a modification.
Correct.
Yeah, they
Of a
know they can't
permit.
add anything without my approval.
Yep.
So you understand that there's a process to add even another goat at
Yep.
this point. You would come back for a modification of the permit.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think you've answered all of my questions, and for the record, most of those will be factual findings.
So Mike,
Thank you.
I just have one question, and that is, again, just so we're clear in this, you're looking, the application is stating you're looking to have a permit for 2 goats, 4 ducks, and 12 chickens. And what's been told to applicants in the past is, don't necessarily put in what you have this current day, but if the things you plan to expand in the short time horizon, then that saves you from coming back from us. It also gives the animal inspector a better thought plan for where you're going to be headed with direction this. So even though you've listed 2 other animal types in this in quantities, for the time being, you're just planting
Yes.
goats. And at some point, whether Dad says,
Probably not. It was prior I had those chickens and ducks, so I put them on there.
okay,
But after an
With the-
animal came and got them, I just didn't want to keep getting more and having them killed, so.
Yeah, we think that, I've seen it, there's a fox that's living out behind the in between the areas, and since we've put in the application, what he did have is all gone.
okay.
He did the best, like he said, to keep it, but I mean, they find their way in when they need the
We've had a
food.
lot of, so this past winter, this was probably the biggest loss for hen owners in town, with some pretty secure coops and like freak things, like somebody was away on vacation, that really bad windstorm, and their coop blew open and something got in and killed everything in one night when the neighbor went to check on the next morning. It's just the predators have been brutal this winter.
Yeah,
So we may
actually-
have some overweight predators in town then?
Yep, we
Okay.
talk a lot about,
Actually,
yep.
woke up one morning, went out, fed the chickens, and went to work, came home from work, and they were all dead in the middle of the day.
Wow.
They're quick. They have babies to feed, sadly.
Yeah.
So I have no other questions. Any other board member?
No, I think you've done great at answering our
Okay.
questions.
So it is a public hearing. We will,
For anybody in support.
yeah. So at this point, we can turn the mic on if there's anyone here to voice support for the application. Again, our comments we'd be looking for be in terms of public health aspect, and we've already gotten one letter of support that came into the director, I think, today.
Yes, this morning, yesterday morning?
Okay.
One day, yeah.
It's dated yesterday.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep.
Days get mixed up sometimes.
So I understand if there are any folks that would like to speak, do we have a sign-up sheet there?
It's over there.
Okay.
Sign-up sheet up there?
No,
Well, there's a piece of paper, but it doesn't
there's
look
one
like
over
a sign.
there.
We'll bring one over to you, so. So again, people welcome to come up and speak either for first or against after, but we're just going to ask you to keep your comments related to matters of public health that the board has area of influence over. And like the folks here, we just ask that you state for the record your name and address before you address the board.
Is this on?
I think so. Yep, I'm getting the shaking head. It's on.
Okay. Dave Asnavorian, 12 Marie Street. I share a property line with the Winters. We've been neighbors for many, many years, and we love the family. My wife and I only concern is the viability of keeping the animals penned up. When they had the chickens, boy, we had a lot of chickens running around our yard at one time and had to keep scooping them up and bringing them back. And honestly, that got tiring. But unfortunately, I know the chickens did get slaughtered. And then when the goats came along, now I have goats blasting through the stockade fence between our yards while we're sitting there in our swing, and literally blasting through and coming into our yard. Now, we've got kind of a decimated stockade fence between our yards now, and it looks like you called it cattle fencing, which
Yeah.
is not very attractive, you know, through all the big gaps in the fence. And yet, the goats still continue to get out. And
Through the
it's
cattle fence?
sometimes, multiple times a day, my wife and I have had to herd them back in through the woods, through their back fence, into their
Okay.
yard.
I haven't got any calls on that, so I wasn't aware of that. I wish you would call.
I'm not a complainer.
Okay.
We love the neighbors, we've been with them for years, but we're honestly getting tired of that. The last time we had to herd the goats in, one of them charged my wife, and I was very concerned by that. So I'm a little concerned, how do we make sure that they don't get into my yard anymore? I'm the one that bears the brunt of the escaped livestock, and I'm really tired of it. So I have no concerns if they go forward with it, but I just can't have them running around in my yard anymore. It's a safety thing. And honestly, it's difficult to keep herding them back.
Well, it's also within our permit or the regulations that the animals need to be kept fenced in. So I guess it's more of a question, if we have it in the regulation, if we vote to give them the permit and they sign the permit, then they're bound to have to take care of that. And I guess I really leave it up to our animal inspector and the applicant to figure out how best to address that, because
But that's not to say that if there's a violation of the permit, at some point, we would ask them to reappear and address the situation if it got out of hand, so that you're speaking to the AOC, PM, the director, and there doesn't seem to be anything that can be accomplished. We would ask them to come back and address these permit violations based on the regulation itself. But I would also suggest that, I know up in Canada, where my family has farms on Prince Edward Island, they have goats. And of course, they relate back to older days where they had pounds, where the lost animals went to be collected. Of course, those days are few and far between here in Massachusetts, but they do use electric collars. They do have an electric fence. They have other things that they're using that are just as similar to dogs. And I think if it got to the point where it had to be addressed, those are the type of solutions that would be discussed with the applicant based on the number of entries and obviously the charging is of concern. We don't want anyone to get injured. I know you mentioned liability. We really can't address liability, but their homeowners policy does address that kind of stuff. So they're probably looking into that as I'm speaking as to what liability section should be added as a rider to their policy, which could be addressed. But what my point is, there is recourse.
Okay, and that's all I wanted to make
and
sure
that's what
of.
we're here-
We love them as neighbors. Our kids have grown up at the same time, so we have no issue with them having the animals. We just don't want them in our yard anymore.
That's what I'm hearing, and I just wanted to reassure you that the board doesn't just grant these permits and walk away. The board grants these permits. We have a very competent staff that monitors the conditions, and if necessary, would report back to us. And then as a board of action, we would take whatever action is necessary in order to address the permit violation and your concerns.
I thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving forward as well, if the animals were to get out again, I would never advise somebody who has don't ever put yourself in that situation. Call animal control, call me. It's not your job. Yeah, but it's not I don't want anybody getting hurt. And if you're not feeling safe and comfortable, that's not your responsibility, it's their responsibility or my responsibility or animal control. Just pick up the phone and call us and we will take care of it and you stay safe. Just so nobody, yeah, same, it goes for any animal in town. You see a horse running down the street, definitely don't jump in front of the horse and try to save it.
So that's why she's here, is a buffer to make sure that, you know, we can accomplish that without too much effort. This is what she does. So,
And the other thing I'll say is the whole reason we have these permits in the first place is to give the town some teeth that we can try to make sure things are done correct when they're not being done correct. Because without a permit, we don't have any recourse. So,
I have a quick question.
yeah.
You had just redone the fencing. Is this new fence after?
After
the
they've been
issues
getting
that-
out, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I haven't got out in a couple of weeks.
so you feel it's escape-proof now?
Yes.
We even put it over the gate, the area that we would access behind the fence. We even put the cattle fence there because that was the one area they could push. We even put the cattle fence over the gate.
So I think what I'm hearing is that they can continue to make improvements to the confines to try to belay any further great escapes.
And that's my only.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, anyone else willing to come up and speak? Yeah,
Good
just
evening.
sign your name and address on the sheet, and then you
We're
can
going to try
state
to
it.
walk and talk at the same time here, so let's see. My name's Stephen Trudeau. I live at 1 Clare Street, so I'm directly across the street from the Winters. I'm at the top of the street where we all kind of share a corner, if you want to call it that. And as David alluded to, we've all been in the neighborhood a long time. Our kids have all grown up together. I've been in the neighborhood 26 years now. It's a great neighborhood. Susan, you alluded to, you've been through the neighborhood. You're familiar with the area. It's a wonderful neighborhood. I'm glad we moved to this area. We've known Josh since he was a young man. And when he first decided to have pets, I think we all rolled our eyes. Maybe it was just me, but I think we all, they're like, really? We're going to do this in the backyard? But I think to the point that you were all making is that we've watched him mature. We've watched him grow through his mistakes. He's done the research. He's not an expert at this. He's never claimed to be, but he's done the research, and through trial and error and through Pam's assistance as well, he's learned these ways that if you were just on the street, you would never know there's animals in the backyard. And when I'm the father of 6. My kids love the animals in the backyard. It turns into like a petting zoo back there. My kids absolutely adore it. And when they have friends come over and they say, let's go see the goats, the visiting parents come over like, what goats? What are you talking about? And when they go back there and see all the work that Josh and Dave have done, it's amazing of how well kept the animals are. You don't smell them. You don't hear them regularly. It's an amazing setup that they've done. I applaud Josh for all the effort that he's put into this. The animals are well kept. I know I'm kind of seconding all the stuff that Pam has already said so far, and I didn't know you were going to be here, so I wanted to come and share my support to Josh and to the Winter family for this, that as someone who has visited this pen on a daily basis with my children, I can see how well they're being cared for. I can see all the effort that Josh puts into it. And again, I know it's by trial and error that he keeps learning along the way, but I know they're well taken care of. And, they have gotten out. We're not here to debate that. They have gotten out over time, but as, the gentleman just said, through their trial and error, they're trying to improve it so that they don't get out. But I'm someone who's here to support this going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else willing to step up and speak in favor of the applicant? Okay, anyone willing to speak with any concerns? Okay, hearing none, I think we can close the public portion of the public hearing.
Motion to close public portion of the public hearing.
I'll second that.
The motion's been put forth and second to close the public portion of the public hearing. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Okay, now we'll move into the deliberation phase.
So you guys can now step back and,
Yep.
and sit in your chairs, and
Thank you.
you're more than welcome. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Like any other permit, there's a number of facts in front of the board this
Yep.
evening that we can adopt prior to going through the deliberations and having a discussion on that. So I would propose the following findings of fact. Number one, the owner applicant is a family that lives on the premises. Number two, there's a competent manager whose name is Josh Winter, effectuating control of the animals and actually effectuating control of the area that confines the animals. Number three, the lot size is an appropriate size for the keeping of 2 goats. And 4, I haven't heard anything related to health or public safety associated with the goats, other than one of the abutters did indicate that there is obviously a concern if the goat gets out. 5, we've made arrangements and notified the public and the applicant what should happen in the event that there's an escape. Number 6, we have letters of support, and we have actual live testimony of support for the keeping of animals on this location. Number 6, there is no opposition from any neighbors, nor has the record been reflected to indicate that opposition has been received by the director or the Board of Health. 7, the application is complete and PM has determined that the manure and management plan is adequate for the number of animals, and there doesn't appear to be any pests or other related activity taking place on the premises at this point. Those would be my findings of fact.
No, I think, this is new for me, so I think going with what Pam said, I mean, I would always want to relay it back to you because you are the professional. And if you believe that, and from what we've heard, it seems as though everything is in place. What Mr. Scarano had mentioned about making sure that, there's no public health safety violations or issues, I would be okay with going forward.
And Ms. Amato?
And the same. At first, I did have concerns because we have dogs, and we go around and I think of how we contain everything. We pick it up every day, and I don't, but my husband does. But I know what this causes, and I know the different animals that we have out there. But hearing from you, Pam, and hearing from other people about you, and knowing exactly what it is you're doing, and I know exactly where you're talking about and the size of it, I feel very comfortable.
Okay, and I likewise, I'm encouraged, and I guess say you're the type of animal owner that I wish that we'd be seeing coming before us all the time, of someone that is really interested in this. And obviously, we're not expecting a farm with many years under the belt to be coming forward for this, that everyone's going to be somewhere in the learning curve. But according to Pam, it seems like you're very well along your way in the learning curve, and there's always things to learn about animals. because I always find something new or unique to do or come up with, so never a dull moment. But I think that everything that Mr. Scrowan mentioned for findings of facts, I agree with completely, and I think that with everything we've heard tonight, I'm happy with
If
the
there's,
situation.
if there's no one else going to add anything that needs to be contained in the record, I think there's substantial evidence to support all 10 findings of fact, and I'd like the board, someone to make a motion so that we can adopt those findings and move on with the remainder of the deliberation and decision process.
Okay?
I'll make the motion to adopt the
Findings of fact.
findings of fact.
And
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been put forth and second to adopt the findings of fact. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Okay. Now that we have the facts together, now we can move on to the permit application. So I'm fine with, based on the findings of facts, of going forward and granting them the permit.
I agree.
Me too.
I'm going to make a motion that we utilize the findings of fact to support our decision granting a permit under 5.3 for the keeping of the goats at the applicant's address by the two applicants.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion's been put forth and second to approve the permit request. So all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries unanimously 4-0. So if someone would like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's been put forth and second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. So hearing is now closed.
Congratulations. Thank you. You'll be able to contact the director for your permit, and we encourage the public to continue your efforts in making it the best possible neighborly animal situation that it can be.
Okay, well, thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, we have nothing on new business, nothing old business. So, director reports. And I can fill in where necessary.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a stab at the Olivera property.
Okay?
So update on Marston Street. Town Council Kevin Feely heard back from Attorney Bornstein yesterday, who represents Dennis Olivera through Tina, Dennis's sister. Attorney Bornstein asked Tina about the animals, and Tina stated that she does not want the animals on the property and that they are there without her approval. Tina was meeting with Attorney Bornstein later on this week to discuss how to move forward with getting the animals off the property.
If that's the case, then a withdrawal of the application would be in order by the single applicant who was not the owner of the property, correct? Or was it Tina and?
It was filled out a little confusing. It's interchangeable throughout the application, I would
think we
say.
should determine who the proper applicants are, and if there appears to be a question about authority to keep animals on the property, then the application is actually a nullity. We can't act on it. So I would venture that the board would be interested in talking to Kevin Feely about having a conversation with the attorney and effectuating the proper withdrawal so it doesn't keep showing up on the agenda.
Okay,
Right?
Yeah, no, that sounds fine.
that's all you heard, right?
Yep,
Okay,
yep, good synopsis.
all right.
It's still within that, like, where we're not supposed to, because it's still within the lawyers, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, this is something that is happening off the record.
Correct.
It's being discussed between council. It will never reach us unless there's some semi-adjudication required by our board to grant or deny a permit.
Right.
So these discussions are ministerial in nature.
Yeah, okay.
No, so thank you for being here for the hearing.
You're welcome. If
Thank
you need me
you.
for anything, you know, call.
Yes,
Okay?
Thank you, Pam. Bye.
but of course.
Dunkin' Donuts update, Michelle went out to 1220 yesterday. Everything looks good. They're keeping up with their temperature logs. It was clean. And then the owner, Thomas 80, was in the office today just to pop by, saying he's present in town. They're doing everything that we've asked, and he's being on top of the establishments just like we requested of him.
And did they provide you, so the org chart and the contact information that they said they would? Okay,
And he submits the logs to me weekly still.
okay.
Great.
And then, so postcards, which are in your packet, were mailed out to all food establishments.
I got one.
Okay. Yep, regarding that one person at all time needs to be Serve Safe certified starting September 15th.
May I ask a question on that? So in regards to that, after when this becomes official as of September 15th, I'm assuming that someone's going to be going out and,
So while we're on inspections, we'll make sure we ask the question and see their Serve Safe paperwork, just to verify.
This postcard thing is a great idea. It would almost seem to me that this should be a regular practice. I don't know if it's in the budget. I don't know if this postcard could be altered, but it would seem to me that constant reminder that this is a requirement for the next several quarters would be a good idea, especially with the strain on resources. So maybe even a box that says, "I'm in compliance. We welcome your next visit."
We were thinking of sending like informational, like, I don't have water, you should close. It's not, just like random food safety things that establishments should know, but sometimes
But
forget.
They can't have a permit without having the Serve Safe.
Right.
So how are these people surviving without Serve Safe? They have to have a permit to be open, correct?
Right.
So how do they have permits and they're not Serve Safe?
We want to know that they have a person.
At all time.
Working at all times.
Yeah, yeah, and they should acknowledge.
I know.
They should just simply acknowledge, we're in compliance with the regulation. We
Right.
have a Serve Safe person
At all times.
at all times.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and that acknowledgement should go back, and if we don't get a card with an acknowledgement, a visit is in order, right?
I truly feel, being in the business for so many years, that the forms and the permits were very, very strict. So when you go for your permit, it's well known, you can't just submit one. You need 2 or 3 Serve Safes if you're open a number of hours, because one person can't handle it all.
I do have a question, if I may. So with these permits and all of these things, now, obviously, restaurants have to have it portrayed somewhere, correct?
Right.
Does it matter where they have it, or should it be in a
It should be
place?
visible to the public.
Okay.
Usually right at the front.
Usually it should be like right in the
Walk
front,
It should
right?
be right there.
Okay, so that would be like like so people could pass by and see it without even walking in?
Right.
Okay. Would that be something that we could add, like that? Would that be easier to
Usually
do?
we look for it when we do our inspections.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't put mine right in front because it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
But all the permits and licenses are all
All there.
in the, right at the door.
Okay. Awesome.
Next, I don't know if you heard on the news about the COVID-19 tests that are getting distributed to towns and cities. So we did opt in. I got an email from the state. They allocated 5,670 tests to Tewksbury. They should be arriving soon, within the next week or so. I'm going to be working with our nurse Ashley on a plan of how we are going to distribute those out to the public. But again, we don't have enough for everybody, but we do have some. So that will be good.
Have
That we-
enough for almost every family, though, right? Not for everybody.
Right.
But certainly for every household.
And then there's 2 tests that come in each box.
Right, so, as long as people are prudent, I think you could cover all the households
Yeah.
and all the families.
Right.
Plus, a lot of people receive them from the government. We got a ton of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Different people I know.
Postal
And
Service.
myself, they just came, which we still have.
And then just the farmer's market started today at Livingston Street. It's every Thursday from 4 to 7, and it runs through September 29th. So everyone should check it out. There's a lot of vendors out there, and Alex in our office has been working very hard getting that up and running with Robert from the library.
Yeah, I stopped in today. It was really good.
Well, congratulations to them, because it's a great thing.
It is.
It's a great thing.
Takes a lot of hard work. Should acknowledge that they've expended time and effort to get there and get it up and running, and now they're just looking for the support of Tewksbury residents and
Right.
anyone else that is looking for farm fresh table.
Yep.
And then I guess we should probably just make a brief mention about brown water in town.
Right.
Because Director and I had a conference call with the town manager today, and there's been a lot in the news lately, especially in social media, about the water main breaks and resulting brown water that people have. And first and foremost, the conversation was geared around we need to make sure the public is aware if there is a public health aspect to the brown water. And town manager, after doing research and also with our director of DPW, did research, and the brown water is being caused by sediment that is both in the pipes as well as in the water storage tanks that we have. And it's exacerbated when there's a lot of peak demand for water, because you get higher flows coming through the pipes, which stirs up more sediment, which is hence resulting in the brown water above and beyond when there are water breaks, water main breaks.
Of course, that demand is sometimes related to irrigation, and we should all be concerned about conserving resources. We're still down. Annual rainfall this spring hasn't been exceptionally generous with the rainfall, and of course, driving some of this sediment is the fact that there's irrigation running. Again, that demand is a reasonable explanation, and Mr. Barry's comment that it poses no health risk is even more important, because they are testing at the plant and at the water treatment facility constantly. If there were any questions about the quality of our water, there would be immediate notice and immediate concern by our elected officials, who would transmit the information to our board, and we would disseminate it from there. So it's good to hear that there is no public concern about the quality of the water,
Right.
other than its color.
Yeah. So the things that the town is doing is there is a frequently asked questions page on the website, but they're going to make that, I think, be much more prominent on the homepage and restructure it with one of the first statements being that we are not the only town that's running into this issue. It's happening in a lot of other towns. We have an old water distribution system. I think the town manager said we've received $6 million.
It was 9.3 million in ARPA funds.
Yep. So
Are
work
going
has
towards the
started
water.
on the Whipple Road side, and there's information on the town website about the water main replacements. They're just updating the water distribution system in town, which will take multiple years. And they're just addressing it as finances dictate. But they're going to make an effort to also have the DPW be able to more proactively notify both the town manager and Director Gillis when there is a water main break that does influence food establishments. Because there have been cases where water mains have broken on Main Street and restaurants are still operating for food establishments that's still operating when there was no running water. So,
That never affected me.
well, I wasn't even looking down that way, but to your point, you do everything correct, and there's an assumption that everyone does everything correct, and it's not always the case. So,
It's an assumption.
yeah.
May I just ask a question? So as far as the sediments, do we know what those are and like how much and how the implication if you're drinking solely tap water is? Like even though they test a small portion, right? My concern, obviously, me personally wouldn't recommend anybody drinking brown water. But if they're saying it's safe and it's only due to sedimentation, I'm guessing this is more for the water department to kind of ask, like the amount and what is the healthy amount if you're drinking it constantly throughout the day would be my concern for the sedimentation and what is in this, like what that consists of.
Well, from the standpoint of the pipes themselves, they're ductile iron pipes. They have a lining in them. And because they're not always taking complete flow through the pipes, there's always sedimentation in the water. It just doesn't show up to the extent
Correct.
that you're seeing it now because of the demand. So, sedimentation is a fact of life with water systems. But I think that your point is well taken, that if there's any concern, there's aftermarket
Filtration systems.
filtration systems, and there's even in refrigerator filtration systems that can
Right.
give you 2 pure gallons of water filtrated.
Absolutely.
And I would encourage people, if they have any concerns about color and the fact that there's sedimentation, that they should seek out one of those alternatives. And certainly, if you're drinking a tremendous amount of water through the municipal system, and you want the quality of filtered water,
Correct.
like Poland Springs or one of those others,
Absolutely.
I think you ought to take the steps necessary to do that.
Yeah, the town manager also stated, and I know it's been on the website too, that if you are getting the discolored water, just let the cold water run for a while till it runs clean. Not the time to be washing clothes, and you want to try to get the sediment out of the water first before it goes into the water heater. So, and then he said that if clothes happen to be washed in that brown water, that there's chemicals that you can pick up at the DPW that you can use to get rid of the sediment that's in the clothes. And biggest thing he said is if it's brown water, you don't drink it. And obviously people can tell the difference if it's coffee or tea versus brown water and what to drink or not. And
I always recommend filtered water for drinking, but that's me.
This doesn't appear to be a long duration problem, so
no.
it would make sense to look at the recommendations. Obviously, running the water for extended period of times is probably not what
For the water.
we're looking to do, but obviously clearing the water enough so that you can utilize it for domestic uses is something that we all are encouraging. Again, while it may stain your clothes, it may stain your teeth, it may not be the best for drinking, there is no public threat or health threat.
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
Awesome.
That's all I have.
Okay. Board reports. Ms. Braga.
So I met with the Wellness Committee yesterday afternoon. They're just kind of putting everything in-house, reviewing the policies, and then we're going to reconvene again, kind of just gathering everybody, cleaning up house, I guess you can say. The minutes should be coming out as well. So not much to report on there, but lots of goals to kind of revamp everything that they had been doing prior to COVID. So I think there's many things and good things to come, working with the community, the police department, fire department, everything like that. So I'm excited to get that going once everything is cleaned up and ready to go again. And then I did speak with Maria Ruggiero from Tewksbury Cares. So we're just going to, we're going to collaborate. We're going to have another meeting and kind of go through all the things. So she kind of explained, again, it was kind of postponed due to COVID, so everything kind of just shut down. So getting back to it where we're going to work together and kind of, and she was also part of wellness, the wellness committee at one point. So kind of working and collaborating to get everything up and running again. So not much to point out right now, but I'm looking forward to where things are going to be going and getting more things out in the community. So that'll be exciting.
And just let me know if I did send you, I believe I forwarded you an email from like before COVID that had email addresses of board members for Tewksbury Cares, and I think it was a notice about a board meeting.
I'll
I
have
think
to
I forwarded it to you.
I'll have to check. It might have gone, because I don't remember reading it, but I
Okay.
might have gone to junk because email is weird. But yeah.
Well, I can send it to your new town
Yes, I
address,
was
which
gonna
is
say
another
that.
segue. If you both want to mention what your
Yes.
town email addresses are.
Yes, so we have Tewksbury email, so for any of the residents in the community that want to reach out to us, they are more than welcome. So mine is M, as in Mary, Braga, BRAGA, at tewksbury-ma.gov.
And what was mine?
I think yours might be S. Amato. S. Amato at tewksbury-ma.gov, I'm assuming.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm very excited to have that. Thank you
Yes,
for.
thank you, I appreciate that.
And I would have read them off, but I saw it on my phone once I get home tonight in the driveway, and I did not have a chance to print it, so.
Yeah,
Fine.
no,
I'm excited. I think it's, for me, it's important. I love feedback from the people, whether it's my people or the town people. I need to be approachable, and I think it's important for the community that we're approachable. So thank you for pulling that together.
thank you.
We can get things done in town. Okay. I can't think of anything else we have to cover tonight.
I have a couple of things, if
Oh,
you
go
don't
ahead.
mind. So I had a couple of feedback, and, some of the people had lots of people like numbers, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a couple of numbers with things. COVID-19, big thing. 510 patients hospitalized are COVID positive. 59% of those hospitalized are fully vaccinated. So that's 302. 32%, so 161, are hospitalized because of COVID. So the others tested positive while they were hospitalized for another reason. So it seems like the hospitalization rate has dropped 26% in the last 2 weeks, so that's always good. Case rates are down 86% of all communities, and it's continued to decline in the last 3 weeks. So all good, positive news, in my opinion. Monkeypox is another thing that's been showing up. I personally don't think it's anything of concern. There's been 6 cases in Massachusetts, no deaths, fully recovered in 2 to 4 weeks. It is spread through direct skin-to-skin contact, not by casual conversations, walking by someone who's infected or touching items like doorknobs. But again, all this information you can get at the mass.gov. And then blood drive this Saturday, June 18th, from 9:30 to 3 p.m. at the Masonic Lodge. But that appears to be fully booked, so the next one is Thursday, June 23rd, from 9 to 7. You can go to redcrossblood.org and then enter Tewksbury, or you can call 1-800-RED-CROSS. And then I believe there's blood pressure clinics on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 9 to 11 at the Senior Center.
Yes,
Put-
Ashley does them. So she actually does them on Tuesdays from 10 to 11:30, and
Okay.
then Wednesdays 9 to 11.
Awesome. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then, yeah, that was all I had.
Okay.
Right.
The only thing I have is mosquito appointments are still available
Yes.
through the Middlesex council for spraying.
Central Mass Mosquito.
Yep, Mass Mosquito, and that number's available. And I would suggest that anybody that's entertaining coming up through the July festivities, and since we haven't had a lot of rain, there's not a lot of standing water, that doesn't mean that spraying is not effective. Spraying is most effective at this time. So before you have your outdoor parties and the children are running around, jumping in and out of the pool, and certainly you might want to think about calling in and making arrangements for the public spraying. There are private companies out there spraying as well.
They can also do it online as well.
Ms. Mo, do you have anything you want to bring up?
No, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Okay, you're not required to, because I don't either.
Charlie instructed me on how to do a proper motion to adjourn.
Nice.
I'm glad he trained you, because I don't want to be stuck here till next month.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will second that motion.
So the motion's been put forth and second to adjourn tonight's meeting. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. It's 7:11 p.m. Tewksbury. Good night.
Aye.